Michael, imagine a world
This is Auto Collabs.
where we actually were together to record these, like in a physical location.
It almost makes me feel like that
We
was
started
the
that way.
original idea.
Was that the original idea that
It
we were going to
was.
do this?
Okay,
monthly
here's
and
the
we were gonna
original
get
idea.
Together and
We
do
were
a
like,
thing?
hey, Cirillo, we think we could do a podcast called Auto Collabs. Can you fly to Philadelphia and do that? Yep. We all show up in Philadelphia. We set up in a hotel room.
Record some of the best podcast content.
I fully agree. And we had like, I don't know, we had like 8 preloaded. So we just sat there and did an intro episode and intros and outros to this. And we were like, we are going to fly in and get together once a quarter and do these live. and everyone, and the laughter can be a little indicator of how that actually happened. But in my idea of my best life, we do that once a month.
Oh, it would
I'm
be
just
so
saying.
nice. I can't wait till you send the pirate plane to come get me and bring me to Syracuse.
Well,
Paul.
I
It'll
don't
be
know.
great.
Southwest just backed out of Syracuse, and
We're all
am
done. We're never
bummed.
getting there on one ways.
I
Hold
am
on, you're
bummed.
saying- so what do you guys do to get out of Syracuse now? Horse and buggy?
Horse and buggy.
You basically united.
Jeez.
So
funny.
United.
He's
Here's
so
your
funny.
pretzels, sir.
I know. No, Southwest was a big
Give
deal.
you
but
one
we have
little pretzel.
United, American, JetBlue, Delta. No, we. I think we.
Well,
kicked
speaking of
Spirit
regional
out.
flights,
Oh, very good segue.
you know, today we're talking to a regional VP of Lotlinx, Kelly Stoop. And, you know, if you've been around the automotive industry, you've probably seen Kelly on the socials or at events. And like all I know about Kelly at this point, honestly, is just a bubbly, wonderful personality. Like one of those personalities that is just nice. She's just a wonderful person to be around, you know? So I'm excited to kind of get to know her a little bit more and kind of her journey and what drives her.
Let's hit it. Let's get into this conversation with Kelly Stoop from Lotlinx. Let's go.
Hey, Kelly, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited.
All right, so you and Kyle in our like pre-conversation conversation, there's a very common thread because every time Kyle lived a lot of places because he was a pastor's kid, and we found out too that you have moved around a little bit, had a lot of experience because you're a self-proclaimed Army brat.
I don't know if it's self-proclaimed, but that's the title that I was given. So, I just felt like it was too late to rebrand. So
It's
yeah.
more of like a mantle. Right? It's like,
I have to rebrand.
how would you rebrand that, by the way?
I don't know. I haven't looked into any domain names, but I'm just sticking with it.
Because you got to get a domain name, right? If you got a brand, you got
what's
a
step
domain
one
name.
to rebrand a new domain?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What was the most interesting place that you lived, like growing up and moving around?
Oh,
do you
geez.
think?
Interesting.
Or was it
is
all
such a
boring? You were like,
relative
well, we were
thing.
in Idaho, then South Dakota. No, just kidding.
No, and we weren't in any of granted, I was in Oklahoma, so I don't want to say I wasn't like in the Midwest or any of those states that are kind of like lumped up in the middle, but we lived in Europe, so that's cool. I was born in Europe, in Germany, and then in the early 90s, I was back in Europe. I actually went to the same high school, well, junior high school and high school, because there aren't as many students as there probably needs to be, so they just lumped 7th through 12th together. But
Cool.
went to the same high school as Shaquille O'Neal. So
Wait, what?
yeah, very inconspicuous school, full American high school. So early 90s.
That's the name of it, American High School?
Uh-huh.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I had my cross colors, overall with one side
Oh my
down.
gosh, I haven't thought of that brand forever.
Yeah,
Kyle,
and
do you
my
even
little
remember cross
crystal
colors?
necklace.
Absolutely.
Cross colors. Oh my gosh.
Man, what a time
You just
to be
brought me
alive.
back.
I
to the
know.
90s.
All of that is back, at least in Nashville. It's the 90s are cool. So, that's the way we do it here.
Yeah, well, one of the downsides to moving as often as we did is you didn't move that much from one place to the other. So Lord knows where that wardrobe is, nor would I be able to fit into the same thing I could when I was 12.
Join the club.
Nice.
Join
Thanks
the
for
club.
bringing that back up.
So, all right, let's talk about the fun part of the conversation, which is always, how in the world did you find your way to the auto industry?
Oh, yeah. I feel like I probably have a similar story as everybody. It kind of found me. So I was selling advertising. I realized that I had the gift of gab. I probably would chalk that up to my life in, moving around all the time. So I'm like, either be interesting or be a reader. And
Survival instinct, right?
yeah, the alternative just didn't seem as fun to me. So I started selling. I was in broadcast, traditional, all that good stuff. And then, I just kind of gravitated towards auto. They tended to have some big co-op dollars and, you know, at least some, personalities that love to see themselves on screen. And I was like, this is so fun. I love car dealers. They're just, everyone's different. And it was through that I was referred to, a little company called Pure Cars a long time ago.
Heard of them.
And I was like 1099, like out there slinging like third-party research reports to try to validate car prices. Like,
Oh,
I
wow.
felt like it was very grassroots, but that's kind of where it all began. And then car dealers have become my friends. It's a pleasure to do business in this industry for
Well, I
sure.
I love it because like the way that you portray, like coming from linear and traditional media, you portrayed the dealer or the dealership as like, I'm sure there was like a moment when you were in traditional media, like, just send me a commercial, please. Just send me something that we can actually put up. And the dealers are like, I'll get in front of a camera. And you're
For
like, that
sure.
sounds great.
Got
Let's
it.
And like
figure
Right.
that out.
talking to like
Right.
trying to convince people who own carpet stores that they should advertise, and the car dealers are like, no convincing necessary. I've been waiting for you. I was like, oh,
Now,
it turns out you already have your script and a suit to wear. So this is going to make things really easy for me.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, but fast forward because, then you kind of get into the digital side of the business with Pure Cars and there, at least when you started that, probably what, 12 years ago when Pure Cars got started.
Yeah.
There was still a lot of convincing to be had though on that side of the business. How did you kind of translate that feeling from like, oh, this is easy to maybe there's some convincing that has to be had because digital was still, believe it or not, kind of coming around for auto.
We had an advantage only because it was both, right? So there was the online component where you had the, little graphic that went on the VDP page that a customer could click on, but also
Yeah.
dealers would print that report out and hand it as a part of their collateral at the dealership, right? So it could transition kind of like and straddle both lines. But frankly, like coming from where I was asking dealers for budgets for, 15 grand for a broadcast spot to going and saying, "Hey, can I have 300 bucks so that you can hold a little growth on your used cars?"
You're like,
Didn't seem as tall of a task. So I was like, turns out this is a
sell a
lot
lot of
easier of a
these,
sale.
right? Yeah.
So the ticket amount, the price definitely made conversations easier. Plus, used car dealers were so ready to have something that said, "Okay, I can have a third party research tool that can validate my pricing. Sign me up." It was actually like a pretty seamless transition. Now,
So
the
Yeah, I
real
feel like
transition was to like actual digital when I went over to Auto by Tel and was talking about TCPA and texting. Now that was a conversation.
you've really been on the kind of the edge of a lot of stuff.
I'm really trying to be as forward thinking from a tech standpoint as possible. Just ultimately like why I ended up where I am now at Lotlinx.
So what's the edge now? I think I know the two initials you're going to say, the two letters you're going to say, but tell us about the edge. What's on the edge? You've seen several of them, and now you're in the middle of this one. Talk to us about that.
Well, I'll back up a little bit too because part of I was on the third party side at TrueCar and I loved it. And part of what I loved about it was just, the ability to drive those like deep in funnel, ready to purchase consumers to the dealership, right? We had those affiliate partners, and we had all these things, and I like loved. That is where I feel like cut my teeth in terms of automotive. I spent so much time sitting in dealerships trying to figure out how to help them with processes and doing observations and doing all these things that could help them convert at a higher level. But every dealer told me, "Kelly, I love this. This is the best. But I really wish that I could get this type of deep in funnel traffic to my website." And at that time I was like, yeah, me too. And I'd love to have a Ferrari, but we have to live with the circumstances in which we have around us. And then my former boss at TrueCar left and went to Lotlinx, and frankly, I was like, "She went where?" I had never heard of this company before, and I was very happy at TrueCar, and honestly, really wasn't considering leaving. And one day, she's like, "Kelly, just look at this."
That's how it always starts.
And it was all over, right? Never peek behind the curtain. And I saw, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is exactly what every dealer, for honestly, as long as I've been having conversations with dealers, been asking for." But couple that with in a tremendous amount of data and intelligence that's literally constantly optimizing in order to find the best deep in funnel shopper for inventory only dealers have, right? So, that was another part of the problem. It's like, okay, unicorn cars don't exist. And there was all these nuances to like where the solutions I thought I had were really good, but they weren't quite right. All of a sudden, you've got this situation where you're like, we're coming off of years and years of data. You've got at this point 12 plus years of VIN specific, indexing where we're looking at all of the different market factors, all of the pricing, every VIN that comes on and off the internet, like that amount of data mixed with 160 publishers that are pushing us their site traffic every day so that we can kind of measure against and do some pretty remarkable indexing to make sure that we're making the best matches possible. I mean, what's not to like? It's an
Yeah, I
exciting.
mean, I remember like my first introduction to Lotlinx was not as a digital tool or an advertiser or anything like that. It was simply a market research tool where like this aggregate of data gives you an over leverage on your ability to assess the market, provide, the best used cars for your market, understand where the market is going. And I think that's been a calling card of like, you know, don't don't just like take our word for where the shoppers are. Look at the entire market, and a lot goes into just like preparing market data for the industry at some level, right?
Yeah,
Which is
absolutely.
interesting for like much more of a SaaS company. It's not so much like a JD Power and NADA or anything like that, but there's definitely a lot of data baked into the way that Lotlinks kind of goes to market.
Yeah, I mean, and to Paul's point, I know you were teasing out the AI part of it, right? And look, AI, I don't want to say that's like everyone's got AI, but we hear it a lot, right? It's
I
the
love your
buzzword.
position on this so much already. The fact that you didn't just like go full in and be like, it's gonna save the world and
AI
ruin the world
today
all
and
at the same time.
tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah, no.
yeah, you're giving a serious
The
speech.
thing about it is like, okay, now what, right? That's the question that we need to be asking is not do you have AI, is what is your AI built to do?
Yes.
So our AI is built to think like a dealer does. It just makes those decisions 30,000 times a second. How do I mitigate risk? How do I increase my opportunities for profitability and velocity? And we use a bunch of data, an S ton of data to figure it out. The nice
That's
thing is
amazing.
that it doesn't take a day off. It doesn't need sick leave or, anything else. It's constantly working. It's funny. I was just listening to something from um, actually like a Brian Pash thing was just talking about your tech stack and what to do and what to not do, right? And it's talking about clean data and making sure that, all of the things that we're doing, essentially there's this hygiene involved. There's this reinspection that's necessary, even for the best companies, right? Whether it's data mining or whether it's retargeting, et cetera. And it made me think like, well, isn't that what machine learning is for?
Right.
Cleaning it. It's a
Yeah.
constant scrubber. It's a filter feeder, right? It's figuring out how to get rid of all the unnecessary data to make sure that the exact right decisions are being made, but it's being presented for an inventory, advancement or solution.
One thing that I always find interesting, and we've kind of gone from like your history as a kid, moving around to what you're doing and how you're serving dealers, what Lotlinks is doing. Where would you see like the parallels or the advantages that you're getting from having had a rich history of like multi-country, multi-city learning as a kid, and then deploying that into how you see the world and how like your worldview actually impacts how you serve dealers through the tech that you're a part of?
Kyle, you're like pulling out
It's a deep
all of
question, I
this
know, but
is
like,
you
What
guys
did you
are
think
there's
we were
got to
turning
gonna
be
tables
do
something
over
on
there,
here.
this
right?
show?
It's like,
Like you can't just like you can't visit that many countries, that many cities, and be a part of an army family and just like kind of leave all that behind and then take this whole new road. Like there's learning that you had as a kid that's impacting what you do every day.
yeah,
What is that?
no, I think you're right. And it's funny because I didn't really draw the parallel until you just put it very plainly in front of me. But, you know, people who know me often know that a lot of the things that I use in terms of philosophy, comes from my dad. He's just a really hard worker and he just was like an overachiever. Like he was always like the one that was promoted below the grade. And, I don't know if anybody knows what that means, but he was
It's a good
basically the
thing.
younger one of the whatever ranking person because he just was like super committed. But my dad would always tell me, and when I was younger, I always thought it was like his way of telling me to just like suck it up and deal with it when I'd complain about having to move. But my dad would always say like, adaptivity or being the having the ability to be adaptable is like the highest level of intelligence, right? So I'm like, oh, it's a backhanded compliment, right? He's trying to tell me just like, you got it, kid, you're going to be super smart because you're just going to like figure it out. But as I have gone through my career, I've realized how much being adaptable has helped me, right? So it's like you take going to being in a dealership in, Long Island, where you have to go downstairs to the offices, right? Or and then flip flop that to being in, Ford store in Texas, right? Being adaptable has allowed me to have conversations that have like the same undertone but can come off a little bit differently depending on the environment you're in. And when you're talking about being adaptive, you know machine learning, I mean, it's kind of the thing it does. So I guess we're all kind of tethered to each other whether we planned it or not.
Yeah, like you're clearly pursuing the thing that you learned, right? Like in your career moves, going, where can I find the thing that was valued so significantly in my early childhood, right? That is the likeness in the thing that I get to work in, that is adaptable, that is flexible to work with different people, different scenarios, different market demands, all of that type of thing. And when you think about the level of data, the level of research, pairing that with machine learning and AI to be adaptable to the market conditions of the place where you're at, like you're actually kind of like living in the value set that was created for you so early. So like that's why I think when I hear you go, I went from True Car to this because it was a no-brainer. I think you saw that. And so I
Yeah.
think that's a really like that's a key reason why like your passion is coming out through the thing that you get to do right now, and why maybe the dealers that maybe have questioned, a connection with you might go, okay, I see where that passion may lie, and connect that to the real data that might help a dealership. That's just my perception here.
Well, no,
So
I appreciate that.
give
And
you that.
it
That's my
sounds
gift.
really good. So we're going to hang our hat on that for sure. For sure.
Kelly, we're all going to be together in depending on when this airs, but we're going to be together at a SodaCon.
Mhm.
What is your typical approach when you're at an event where people are talking about the progressive things? There's a lot of dealers and industry partners kind of collaborating on how we're going to solve some of the problems. How do you typically approach those types of events?
I I love to be a sponge. I want to like take it all in and listen. It's not too dissimilar than when I'm having a conversation with a dealer, right? Try to figure out as you hear people speak, the gaps start to present themselves, right?
Mhm.
So my we have to figure all of this out as a community, and you guys have definitely figured that out, right? Conversations, and you know there is a bunch of different pieces that have to go into this puzzle, and figuring out how they all fit together and the connectivity components is where I think we are the most strong. So I recognize that dealers are faced with so much decision making, right?
Mm.
They have a multitude of things, from their tech stack to what floor mats to buy, what cleaning solutions to use in the bathrooms at their dealerships, right? So you know my goal every day is to just listen and learn, and then figure out where there's opportunity for me to say, hey, I think that there's something you need to know, or there's some information that I have garnered through my journey, whether it be from a data set or from an experience that I can parlay that might be useful for you in your next, when you're having your next conversation. So, a total spirit of collaboration.
Right mentality.
Super
Come on now.
passionate. So this kind of stuff, I've met a lot of people, to the theme of this show, in my journey. And the thing that I love so much about automotive is like, it's like I've met no one, right? Because dealers, like nobody, I'm always surprised. I'm like, holy crap, I feel like I've met every different type of person across, the globe. But it's like, man, this one is special, or this one is like hilarious. And these are the reasons why. So I love this kind of stuff.
That's awesome. Well, we can't wait to see you in a couple weeks. Kelly, thank you so much for spending some time with us today, talking about your journey both before and during auto, and love to see you wearing your passion on your sleeve. Thanks again for joining us on Auto Collabs.
It was 100% my pleasure. Thank you, guys.
All right. So every time, Kyle, you start an interview with like, I used to live right there.
It's kind of ridiculous. Yeah.
Kyle has lived
Just
everywhere
the fact that I've lived
every
everywhere.
guest on Auto Collabs has been at. He literally lived.
Well, there's two things I've ascertained at this point about Kyle.
Just two.
Oh boy.
He's lived everywhere the guests have lived, and also has somehow also like done all of their jobs. So like,
that's a really great point.
Oftentimes you and I just sit here and we're like,
that's good.
And we watch Kyle and the guest like talk about these deep in, my experience doing this, and we're like, we just sit there like this, cheat.
Okay.
No, she did a bunch of things that he never do. I mean, she's worked at True Car, right?
Yeah.
Auto by Tel. I
Never
mean, she
done
really
that. Auto
has.
by Tel. Yeah.
I think when you get somebody that's Pure Cars, little company called Pure Cars, and when you have somebody that has had the experience of many iterations of digital technology and digital advertising, digital marketing, I think you get a really well-rounded view of just like anything. When you know the history, where it came from, you can kind of understand how to explain where it's going and be excited. She's obviously excited about what she does, and regardless.
Well, and I love the fact that I pointed to it in our conversation is just that the childhood life, the growing up life starts to it forces you to find the thing like at some point in your career that aligns very deeply with your why. And it seems like she's found that. And that just gets me excited as a human to say, like, there's another person out there that kind of navigated a career path, right? Because I feel that way too, like navigated a career path for the first, 12, 15 years of their career. And then we're like, made a pivot, saw a thing and said, yep, that actually deeply aligns with my core values. And I love the conversations that we get to have on Auto Collabs with people that have found their passion, their core values. We had Nick Askew, same thing a few weeks ago, right? Had a great career in auto, but then found like, this is the thing that aligns most closely with my why.
Well, a couple people like that are going to be joining us, Michael. Just a couple weeks. Whenever this is released.
Yeah. Just a couple of weeks, or if you're listening to the future, sorry.
Hello.
You missed it.
You missed it. It was epic.
That's funny.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this conversation with Kelly Stoop from Lotlinx. I'm just going to put my little 2 cents in here and break the rule because, like, I know I'm going into the outro, but I'm also now adding my 2 cents. And we tell everyone
yeah, why not?
I just got to throw it out there because,
he's Canadian. They break all kinds of rules.
And I love the way she unsensationally maneuvered the AI conversation with the two of you. Like, I know that sounds weird. I'm not big on sensationalism, which is weird to say for a marketer, but like, I just love how she was like, have good data. AI will do this job over here. Happy day. So anyways, I don't know if that stood out to you guys. We hope it did. If you're listening pre-ASOTU Con, there's still time. Get your tickets, ASOTUCon.com. It is going to be a game-changing experience for you. If you've not seen all of the fanfare and all of the billboards on social, then you probably don't have a social account. So I would encourage you to do that.
And make the first person you follow a SOTU.
Yes, ASOTU more than cars. We hope we get to see you at ASOTU Con. If you're listening in the future, it was epic. Just so you know, it was game changing.
So good.
It did show dealers how today they could navigate the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months with ease while everyone else is panicked. They are rolling through this market like juggernauts. On behalf of myself, Michael Cirillo, Paul J. Daly, Kyle Mountsier, thanks so much for joining us here on Auto Collabs.
Your past, present, and future podcast.
Yes.
Welcome to Auto Collabs. Why are we recording?
Are we rolling yet?